Hey everyone, in this video we're going to continue to take a look at more exam objectives, and we're going to spotlight one from the part modeling section. So this is the second one here called we're going to apply fillets and chamfers. So I'm going to kind of go through this process. I believe what this is referring to is we're going to do some 3D features as far as fillets and chamfers. I'm also going to demonstrate what that looks like in the 2D sketch environment as well, just for the sake of kind of distinguishing between the two. So I'm going to go into Fusion here. I'm going to start off first I'm going to create a sketch on this front work plane, and I'm going to go ahead and just draw a rectangle. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take a look at one. Let me go ahead and dimension this. Let's do 6 inches by 4 inches. Or let's do 5. And so with this scenario, you're going to notice that anytime you look at creating a fillet or a chamfer, so fillets are anytime we want to round corners, and chamfers are anytime that we want to go through and kind of break a corner and kind of have like an angled surface. So here with fillet, I can go ahead and choose fillet. It will want me to select my first line or arc, and then it says to select the second line or arc, and then it wants me to set the radius. So for example, if I want a 0.25 radius arc, or as I'm typing it, if that doesn't look good, I can do 0.5, or I can end up having it be maybe a 1 inch radius arc. So that'll round that corner as we do so. So it may throw you a warning, meaning constraints were removed, which means that the corners that were existing there are now gone. And so it doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just means that they went through and remove some constraints to make that geometry happen. So going back to modify, I'm going to go to chamfer. There are 3 options, much like in some of the other options. We have an equal distance chamfer, where when I select one line and I select the other in this bottom corner, it's going to set an equal distance, and if I use the 1 inch value, I can go ahead and hit 1 inch, and you can see here it's going to apply a 1 inch value. Same thing, you may get a warning, but the warning is just telling you that constraints were removed in order to make this happen. So as I go around, I'm going to go up here to the upper left hand corner. I'm going to go back to modify, and I'm going to use the distance and angle chamfer. So if I choose one line and click the other, it then wants me to set up what kind of distance first. So let me type in 1, and then it wants me to set what angle. So again, it goes by what kind of angle that we have going on here. So if I do 60 degrees, I can hit enter, and that's what it's going to be. So now if I undo, so one of the things is to watch your selection. So distance and angle, if I choose the top line and I choose the bottom one, you're going to see the first line you pick is the one that has the angle reference. So the first line you have has the 0 point, and you can see this angle is now going as I get closer. This is 0 degrees, and then as I move downward, that's going to give me the 40 degrees. Whereas if I use the same operation, distance and angle chamfer, if I choose the vertical line and then the horizontal line, now the 0 is based off the vertical. So it does depend on what you click first to be able to set that there. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and that will set in that one as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and undo that real quick, because I'm going to not mess with the one that's constrained to the origin. But you can also have a 2 distance chamfer if you wish. Same kind of scenario. They'll ask you what. So here the blue arrow indicates that this is the vertical. So we'll go 1 inch here, and then if I select the arrow, then that'll allow me to go, I'll go 1.5, so that way you can see how far that is there. If I hit enter, it then applies those dimensions to show what kind of chamfer. So again, warnings may pop up just to say that constraints were removed. You can see though we're still fully constrained with our sketch. Then I can go ahead and finish the sketch, and I could use this to go through and extrude and make this shape. So this is one of those cases where we could go through and have a lot of different options there. Now, as we go along, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new design. I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to choose the front plane as my starting point. I'm going to go ahead and do the same kind of size. I'll do a 6 inch by 4 inch. Actually, it's a 5 inch. There we go. 5 inch rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch, and then I'm going to go ahead and extrude. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this to be we'll go 5 inches as well. Now, in this last shape, we had a rounded fillet here, we had a chamfer here, and we had a chamfer up there. So what I'm going to do is you also have, which I believe in the part modeling aspect, they want you to see that in the modify panel you have a fillet and a chamfer. So the good benefit of utilizing these is it's easy to go back and edit them. So as opposed to the sketch environment, you kind of have to go back, and there can be some interesting scenarios that happen with those constraints. So I'm going to choose fillet first. Fillet, you just choose the edge, and then you can type in, for example, 1 inch, and then you can also click and drag, you know, how much of a radius that you want on there, and then you can also see like what kind of tangency weight, so which is always specified down here, and you can kind of see that it can kind of go tangency. As you take away some tangency, it gets looking a little bit more like a chamfer, and then as you add a little bit more, it starts to become more rounded, and it kind of goes through and applies that radius. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a one value, 1.00 tangency weight. And so here's some of the other options that are in within fillet. You want to, there's a tangent. You can also do curvature. So curvature, you can see kind of goes through and changes, you know, provides that curvature that you see there on the screen. So usually tangent is one of the most common. So as it goes from one line and transitions to the other, you can see that. Usually a constant radius type is used, where as a value as opposed to a chord length. But you could also have a variable as well. So where you have multiple kind of variable ones. And for the ACU exam, so down here you would specify the start and stop radius points. Really the constant is going to be the most common one that you see quite a bit. And then down here, the corner type, most of the time is a rolling ball, which is the most common type of fillet that you'll have. If you change that to a setback, you know, right now that doesn't really go through and really apply too much in this scenario. So I'm going to change to rolling ball, and we can go ahead and say OK. And if we need to edit this fillet, we'll see it down here in the model history tree. I can right click on it, edit the feature, and then I'm able to go through and maybe decrease or increase it or make some changes. The press and pull tool will also do the same thing. So if I select it, I can go ahead and change this back to 1 and say OK, and that edited that fillet tool there to make that a little bit different. All right, same thing here as well. We have chamfer. Chamfer has the same 3 options as what we saw in the sketch environment: equal distance, to distance, or distance and angle. So really, operates the same way. So if I click the edge over here, this will be the equal distance. So if I do 1, so you'll see over here on this side, there is it, breaking the corner. You can either do also like a miter or a blend. Most common though is going to be the chamfer option as you go through, and then you're just really setting in what is the edge that you have there. If you do a to distance, you can go through same kind of scenario. You can have the chamfer be in one direction more so than another, so have it specified a little bit more. And then if you do distance and angle, so again, depending upon, you know, your grip, you can see it's basing it on that vertical, so you can see what kind of, as well as how much of that you have there. So that is a little bit with, I'm gonna go ahead and say OK. And again, going down here, you can always edit the feature by right clicking and choose editing feature, making changes, or the press and pull tool will do the same thing. So we'll kind of bring this back out. Doesn't quite give you near as much kind of changes with some of the settings. So I would probably become familiar with how to edit the feature and then be able to change some. You'll notice you'll get your distance and angle coming back, and you can make some of the changes here in the menu. So, but otherwise, this finishes the video on creating fillets and chamfers for the Autodesk Fusion 360 Certified User Exam. Again, make sure that if you got questions, you always feel free to contact me. And if you check out other videos, you'll be able to see other exam objectives spotlighted on the ACU exam.